What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got a lot going on here right now. President Biden and the French president, Emmanuel Macron, are trying to get Vladimir Putin to pull out of the war in Ukraine. We'll go over the details here of that and a lot going on here right now. We got several different things to go over here in this video that we'll get into right now. If you haven't yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also, thanks so much for liking and sharing these videos. All right, here's President Biden. Take a listen.
Look, there's one way for this war to end, the rational way. Putin to pull out of Ukraine, number one. But it appears he's not going to do that. He's paying a very heavy price for failing to do it, but he's inflicting incredible carnage on the civilian population of Ukraine, bombing nurseries, hospitals, children's homes. It's sick what he's doing. But the fact of the matter is, I have no immediate plans to contact Mr. Putin. Mr. Putin is, let me choose my words very carefully. I'm prepared to speak with Mr. Putin if, in fact, there is an interest in him deciding he's looking for a way to end the war. He hasn't done that yet. If that's the case, in consultation with my French and my NATO friends, I'll be happy to sit down with Putin to see what he has in mind. He hasn't done that yet. In the meantime, I think it's absolutely critical what Emmanuel said. We must support the Ukrainian people. The idea that Putin is ever going to defeat Ukraine is beyond comprehension. Imagine them trying to occupy that country for the next 2, 5, 10, 20 years, if they could. If they could. He's miscalculated every single thing he initially calculated. He thought he'd be greeted with open arms by the Russian-speaking portions of the Ukrainian population. Go back and read his speech when he invaded, when I said they were going to invade, and they did when we said they were. Go back and read the speech he made. He talked about him with needing to be another Peter the Great. He talked about the need for the people that Kyiv is the mother lode of Russian identity in the beginning, et cetera, et cetera. He's just miscalculated across the board. And so the question is, what is his decision? How does he get himself out of the circumstance he's in? I'm prepared, if he's willing to talk, to find out what he's willing to do, but I'll only do it in consultation with my NATO allies. I'm not going to do it on my own.
And while Russia's been a back and forth on this, you can see here the Kremlin says that Putin is open to talks on diplomacy in Ukraine. But they also said that they want the territories that Russia annexed to be recognized before the talks, which will never happen. The United Nations largely voted and said that they were illegal. The whole world did, and voted that, yeah, that wasn't legal. And Russia doesn't even control vast portions of these annexed territories. So, in fact, at this point, Russia's lost over half of the ground that they took previously. So, the question here is, how does the war end? Are we going to be sitting here next Christmas and still doing this? Or will Ukraine have to literally drive every single Russian soldier out of Ukraine to end this war? And if that happens, will Putin even still be the Russian president? Can he even, or will Russia even take that type of defeat and still let him be president? Will they even take that type of disgrace over there? You can let me know your thoughts here in the comments section. But that might be what it takes for it to happen, because their type of diplomacy talks and their demands for diplomacy just aren't really realistic for what Ukraine wants. They're just, it's just not going to happen. So they basically want to just take over 15% of Ukraine before they even start negotiations. So this just is not it's just unrealistic for Ukraine to even, that's before they even start negotiation talks. It's just not even going to happen. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. We could be in the midst of a housing market correction, but it will take a long time and prices need to fall as much as 20% more than they've already started. And it could take a few years to return to their historical trend. And largely, most of this is because of the interest rate hikes that we've already undergone. And another one could be coming here within a matter of days from the Federal Reserve. The housing market correction will take time, according to DataTrek's Nicholas Colas. They pointed out that the length of previous housing cycles, where home prices strayed from long-term trends for years, they predict that there would need to drop 15 to 20% for the market to return to its long-term growth trend. A housing market correction will take a long time. Prices need to fall as much as 20% over the next few years to return to the historical trend line. They noted that peak home prices in June were still 29% above the trend. This is how high home prices got here this year. So home prices got very, very high, much above the historical averages. So we have to come down 29% just to get back to the average of where we historically should be. And remember, dropping 10% on a $400,000 house is $40,000. So 20% is an $80,000 drop on a $400,000 home. So that just shows you how inflated prices were on the home markets. And remember that we were seeing this really happen over asking price. We were seeing, $300,000 homes sell for $350, and really sell in a matter of a day or two. The day they would go up for sale, they would get 10 bids pretty much within the first day or two over asking price. So it was kind of like a crazy situation here. We're not seeing that anymore, largely because of the Fed raising interest rates. So in that case, we are seeing home prices come down because we're not seeing home prices go for over asking price. But on the other hand, we're seeing higher interest rates, which essentially means people have to pay more for their home purchases, home interest. So one way or the other, people are paying more. However, in the long run, people will be able to refinance and bring them down when interest rates do come back down, whether that's in 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. We just don't know. So ultimately, it is better to pay lower for the actual price than the interest, because you can always refinance when interest rates come back down. I don't think anybody thinks interest rates are going to stay high forever. I mean, you can just look at graphs of interest rates and say, oh, a lot of people remember, oh, interest rates being high back in the 80s and in the 90s, and they came down historically. Yeah, so you can see here this 30-year fixed mortgage rate graph for mortgages. You can see here back in the early 70s was around 8%. Then it went up to 10%, and we got all the way up to 18% around 1980. And then it started to quickly fall went from 18% down to about 13%. Still very high, but it fell pretty quickly there, 5% in the matter of like a year or two. And then continued on a drastic drop for multiple years here. I know I might be in the corner here, but you can see how much it fell here throughout all these years. And eventually we got down to 3% or a little bit lower. And, I don't know how this was just the first graph I could find here in Google real quick. But eventually we did get down to below 3%, depending on the type of graph you could, the type of interest rate you could get. And, but, then we started to go back up. Yeah. So we know that interest rates do not stay high forever, but when you can lock in a low rate, do it because, the interest rates really matter. They really matter. I'll show you guys how much this matters here briefly. On a $400,000 home here, you can see, the average home costs like $400,000 now. I mean, I know it varies a lot. In some states, you can buy a really nice home for $400,000, and in some states, you can buy a shoebox for $400,000, or can't buy anything for $400,000. But that's kind of the average. So we'll just go with that. On a 3% interest rate, which you could get like a year ago, okay, your payment would be $16.86 a month, which is really, really affordable for some people. Or, nowadays the average rent for like a one bedroom. Let me see here. Well, you can see here the average monthly rent that people pay is about $2,000 a month. It actually went down 1% here over the last month, which I guess is a good thing. But it gives you an idea here that the average monthly rent is $2,000, probably based on a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. This is for rent. It's for rent. So if you can get a $400,000 home for less than that, that's really good, right? That's really good. You're basically paying off a house payment for less than rent. But that was a year ago when you could get a 3% interest rate for that. This is why interest matters so much. And this is the same thing for credit card interest rates. It's the same principle. It's the same lesson. Now that interest rates are 7% for round numbers, look at the difference here. Same loan, $400,000 home, same home. Watch this payment, $16.86. Watch it go from 3% interest to 7. $16.86 goes to $26.61. So literally that's $1,000 more a month. 3% interest to 7% interest goes up $1,000 more a month because of interest. So the exact same home costs $1,000 more a month, and all that money goes right to interest. This is why interest is the killer of your wealth or the killer of your money. And this is a very, very important thing to know. You guys got to know this. And it's the exact same lesson for credit cards. So when you go to the store and you buy food with credit cards, it's basically the same thing because your credit cards are much higher than 7%. The average credit card is actually 20% right now. So it's actually twice as bad. So you get the idea. So when you actually go to the store and you buy $100 or $200 in food, you're actually, instead of $200 in food, eventually you're going to actually pay $400 in food for that. And it's all just going to interest. So that's why buying food with credit cards is actually the worst thing you can do. Or buying anything with credit, if you're not paying it off every month, is the worst thing you could do. It's much, much better to just use your debit card or use cash because ultimately you actually pay more money for the food or anything because you're actually just throwing your money out the window to interest. I just showed you it on the screen. With a mortgage, It's the same thing with credit cards, but the interest rate is actually much worse. So this is why credit card companies make billions and billions of dollars, and over time you end up racking up thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars of debt. So yeah, it's really, really bad unless you end up filing bankruptcy on the entire debt or something like that. Um, every month you end up eating all that interest, and when you're paying 20% 20% interest, that means you're paying 20% of the total balance in interest every single year. Every single year. So if you have a $10,000 credit or total amount of debt, that means you're paying $2,000 a year just in interest. Just in interest. Yeah, and that means that every 5 years, 20%, you actually pay the full amount over the course of 10 years just in interest, because you're paying 20% interest every year. So over the course of 5 years, you actually paid 100% interest, which means you paid off the full amount that you would have paid. If you would have just paid cash, you actually paid 100% interest. So you've already paid the full amount if you would have just paid cash or used your debit card over the course of that 5 years. And now you've basically bought all the goods and food and stuff that you bought, and it all went to interest. You paid 100% of that interest over the 5 years, but you still owe the debt. Yeah, so that's why credit cards are like, if you went to a financial counselor or something like that, credit cards are like the worst thing you could do. And a lot of people will say, well, Jimmy, we need credit cards to survive. We do. But in all reality, you're really hurting yourself in the long run, because you're paying that interest every single month, even if you're paying the minimum balance, which a lot of people do. Like 90, 80, 90% of your balance, your payment is going to interest. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments, and I will keep you up to date here with everything. Make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel, and I'll keep you up to date here with everything. If anything, just try to pay your cards off one at a time. The best solution, or that a lot of people have said they like in the comments, is to pay off your lowest balance card first. Pay that off, and then just cut it up or just put it away. Don't use it anymore, and then pay off the next lowest balance card. It's kind of the debt snowball, and this way you have the free money from the other card to use for the next card. It's a pretty good solution. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so, and I'll keep you up to date. You can click here to watch my newest video next, and you can click here to watch my newest video on checks that are going out to millions of Americans. Click on one of those videos. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.